abstracting away all of the Web3 is incredibly important for me. At the moment, it's still not possible to abstract everything, but we're making huge grounds right now. So it's only fair that if you are a user of something and you are the one that's actually, the main driver of value behind why this thing is valuable, that you should be able to participate in the value distribution of that company doing well because of you, the underlying user. I've always had a really social kind of conscience and wanted to make a big difference in the world. So for 12 years, I worked with Doctors Without Borders.
Yeah.
Tim, pleased to have you on. To everyone that doesn't know, Tim is CEO and co-founder of Wealth. How are you today, Tim?
Doing great, thanks. Yeah, it's about -8 outside, and I've been shoveling snow this morning, so feeling
God. Is it
fresh.
deep there?
It is deep. Yeah, yeah. We've got about a meter of snow at the moment, so it's unusual.
Oh God, yeah, we had a flutter yesterday, and I thought London was going to come to a standstill.
Luckily, where I am, they're way more equipped. So they're like 5 in the morning. You get the little like machines are outside, like beeping with the lights and taking away the snow and everything. But they don't do right up to the door, so you still have to go outside and take a little bit away.
Bit of morning exercise, I guess.
Yes, yeah, it gets the heart rate
Going.
going. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Awesome. No, so it's great to have you on. For those that don't know you or would like to know a bit more about you, could you just tell us a bit more like how you got involved in this sector and what kind of initially brought you into it? What interested you about it?
Yeah, cool. Thank you. So it's not the typical story, I don't think, but I guess the whole thing about crypto is that nobody has a typical kind of backstory. It's a mishmash, isn't it? Mine's typical in the sense that it's atypical. I came from humanitarian work, so my master's degree was actually humanitarian management and international politics. I've always had a really social kind of conscience and wanted to make a big difference in the world. So for 12 years, I worked with Doctors Without Borders, which is an organization that I've always admired, even through my studies and growing up. I still support them. So on a monthly basis, I'll give them a donation and so forth. My wife is like, why don't you get rid of that recurring bill? I'm like, no, like this is the only thing that still connects me to my previous life. Um, so I've got a big passion for, I think, equality and just kind of trying to level the systems that are making things the way they are in the world. Big structural imbalances and the issues that we face as a population and as a society in general. But after 12 years, I just got a bit fed up, I would say. I think 12 years doing any one kind of thing or with one organization is quite a challenge. At the end of it, it becomes a bit more like political and niggly, and I just needed a break. And it was actually around the time of the COVID pandemic. I think a lot of people had big shifts in their lives around that time. I'm not unique in that sense. So I looked at actually didn't really actively look. It came to me. I had about 3, 4 people very close to me in my life, and they are independent. They're not like people that were working collectively together, like my brother and one of my best friends, another old friend, and then this other person. And they all started talking to me in one way or another about blockchain or Bitcoin. And I was like really skeptical, like super skeptical, because I thought it was like hugely scammy and just a good way to lose money. I had like pushed once on a buy order for Bitcoin, and I think I ended up losing like $150 in like a second. And I was like, oh God, I'm never touching this again, ever. But I think Bitcoin at that time was like at around $1,000. So it would have been probably quite wise to stick it out. Anyway, I decided to come back in when it was like 30, $40,000. So it was just like this, the seed was planted in different ways. And then, I started to really investigate what the technology is and the potential of the technology. And whenever somebody framed it in a way of being able to create new systems, especially new financial systems, I was incredibly intrigued by that, especially given, what I witnessed and been a part of with Doctors Without Borders. in countries where, for whatever political reason, they don't want finance to flow into that country, they can just shut it off because it's all centrally controlled. And that has huge implications on people and populations everywhere. So, and that in turn causes, a lot of humanitarian issues and social issues, obviously. So the fact that we can have a system which is a lot more fair and depoliticized was really interesting to me, and it's one of the reasons why I was so attracted by blockchain and its potential. So I co-founded a company with some friends of mine, which has led us to this company to be Wealth now. So the first company was an investment company. It did actually looked at gaming as a sector. That was Metavest Capital. It's still active today, although gaming itself isn't really the most interesting or exciting genre to invest in at the moment, especially blockchain gaming. It's had a tough time, but what is really good is that Metavest itself co-founded then this company called Commonwealth, and today it's now just Wealth, WLTH.xyz, and I'm really happy with that, because it allows me to follow on from this interest, which was my initial kind of draw into crypto and blockchain, which is really kind of making a new financial system, or creating new ways for people to generate wealth, really. And I think that's really, really exciting, and I'm so happy to be part of it.
No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, that was some of the main reasons why I got into crypto in the first place and enjoyed the space, was kind of like the whole, I guess, the anarchist almost in me, of like redistribution of wealth, giving wealth to areas that wouldn't necessarily be able to have access to it, not being able to be shut down by your government, those sorts of things, where we had a bit more control over the money or the assets that we do own.
Yeah.
And it's given a lot of opportunities to people that wouldn't necessarily have those opportunities previously. And so I still hold on to that for all the, the other noise that kind of surrounds crypto at times. And it's a big reason as well that I think wealth is a great idea, because as you know, it's obviously offering pre-IPOs to people that maybe would never have the opportunity to get in, and it's also like a price point that, like, I think a lot of us can go, well, no, that's definitely worth like doing a bit of my own due diligence, a bit of research into whatever the company may be, and I definitely want to be involved in that, and I can get in like the early steps of where you hear a lot of these success stories come from like much bigger traders that can kind of afford to get in at their price points. Whereas a lot of us are like, well, I can't do that because I'm not just sitting on a spare £200,000 to invest in this or that one. So yeah, is that so? Obviously, that's kind of what led you there. What made you go down the pre-IPO kind of angle with wealth?
Yeah, no, I mean that's a really good question, and I think you hinted on it a little bit in what you sort of referred to, the noise or the chaos of the crypto world, right? We went through pumped up fun era and what can only be described as shitcoin era. I don't know if you have to, edit that bit out or not. But it's the casino, right? It's the on-chain casino, and that's really what we created with crypto and the whole Solana ecosystem. And I think there's got a place, and it's great, it's fine. But it's not for everybody, and if it is for everybody, then it's not for everybody for all of their portfolio, right? So I think the pre-IPO thing is what in my networks. I've been fortunate enough to kind of develop a network of people who are professional investors, VCs, angels, whatever it is, whatever term you want to give it, but they spend their whole life trying to compound the value that they have, right? They've got some assets. They definitely didn't start with that much, but they've been able to compound that over a period of time. And one of the best strategies they have been able to do is basically to co-invest in early stage companies. And when I say companies, I mean real companies. I'm not talking about the next kind of poo coin or kind of another crypto project which is based a lot on hype, and that's fine. But what we're seeing now, and what we're seeing playing out, is a lot of value extraction and not very much value creation. And real world companies, of course, their whole thing is they wouldn't exist if they weren't actually creating real value or revenue, or responding to a real need in society or in industry. And these companies are, traditionally very, very hard to access, like super hard to access. You just said it, having $100,000 spare or $200,000 spare doesn't even get you a seat at that table. There's more red tape and administration and all sorts of limitations and gates that are in the way for most people to be able to access that thing. Whenever we, as well, did a lot of investigation and analysis into whether or not a route of tokenization and structuring the administration in a slightly different way would open up this access, and it came back incredibly positive in terms of, yes, this is possible. Other people are looking at this, and it was really obvious to us that this was a huge value creation niche and sector that really needed to be sort of democratized, opened up, and bring the minimum right down, make it easy enough for people to just click and say, yes, I want to go in, but also provide obviously enough information for people to make the right choices of what they want to do. So yeah, it was a no-brainer once we looked into it.
And do you think do you think your previous life, I guess, with Doctors Without Borders kind of influenced your thought process in creating this and wanting to go down this avenue? And do you think that maybe like crypto as a whole, our space could do with more people with similar sort of backgrounds, humanitarian backgrounds, being a part of the space, or being like, even if they're not CEOs or co-founders of projects, but being part of like a project's ethos and like, this is how I think things should work, and kind of getting back to that way of thinking that, like, initially, as I said, initially drew me to crypto back in 2018.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to come across in any way like with a superiority complex, and I don't have that. Like, and I'll tell you why. Because I ate humble pie big time after being entrenched in like the whole humanitarian and political ideological kind of sphere. It was like it does make you kind of de facto just think that you have all the answers, and the truth is none of us have all the answers, and I think being open-minded just around crypto, around technology, around what's happening in the world in general has allowed me to do the things I've done with wealth. So if I had been too idealistic, I probably would have not gotten this far, because I would have at some point said, no, like enough's enough. This is like there's too much of a pyramid scheme involved, or like this doesn't resonate with me, or like any sign of nefarious activity, I'll be like, no, I'm washing my hands of that. I'm a great believer of changing things from the inside, and not from the outside. So I didn't want to sit in my comfortable chair and point fingers. I was like, no, like, listen, nothing's perfect, like, at all. So let me kind of learn this technology and learn the industry. And what I've liked about it the most, to be honest, is being around technologists. And this is where I think it's important, because if it was just people with ethical kind of speciality and like a lot of morality, then potentially we wouldn't be harnessing all the potential of these amazing technologists who are sitting there and like building these solutions that are mind blowing. And then AI came along, and it's just like it's put like this fuel on this technological transformation that's happening in society. And I think that, combined with people with good conscience and with a genuine love and appreciation for where we as for us as a society and stuff like that, I think that's the magic mix. Because then you're taking the technology and doing the optimal kind of thing with it. So I want to be a little bit cautious by saying any one type of person should be a leader in this space. I think we can all influence each other really positively.
No, I completely agree. Yeah, if one voice is too loud, then we've done something wrong, I think.
Yeah.
Because yeah, then you're leading down one route, and it's a culmination of everyone's thoughts, processes, and like bringing the best out of each other, and that's what's pushing the technology forward in at a rate now that is remarkable. I think the last few years has definitely picked up. I know, as you mentioned, we went through kind of the shitcoin era, if you want to call it that. And I think it was a necessary part of like the cycle because it meant technologies were able to kind of like improvise and work in the background and kind of like improve. And now we're getting to see the rewards of that time that was spent where some of them working kind of like in darkness and weren't really promoting so much what they're doing. And we're starting to see those projects like come out of the woodworks now and they're talking about them. And I think it's really, really cool and it works well for the space.
Yeah.
So speaking of like improvements and stuff, like what's for a new user to wealth, like what do you want them to take away from when they first like download the app and use the app? Like what's the kind of experience you'd love for them to have or like understand about investing for their first time use?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the first thing I want them not to experience is Web3. I don't want that to be like I think we've been quite, what's the word, stubborn, a lot of us as crypto projects, as Web3 projects, to like say, no, everything on chain is better and like, signing hundreds of transactions a minute is normal. And it's like, no, like this is not a user experience that most people are comfortable with, or even most people would just find it incredibly alien, right? So abstracting away all of the Web3 is incredibly important for me. At the moment, it's still not possible to abstract everything, but we're making huge grounds right now. So recently, we just put Paymaster in, which means that a new user who arrives on the app doesn't have to have native gas at all, right? So if they're able to load $100 or £100 with a credit card, which they can do through our app, they don't need to have the native asset, native ETH on base, in this case, in order to be able to finalize a transaction. For me, that's a huge win, right? So the only friction is depositing money in your account, which is normal, right? Anybody who's doing anything, whether it's Amazon or any kind of fintech experience, you're going to have the money in order to spend it, right? So essentially, I want people to, when they come to wealth, have an experience that they're kind of used to with a neobank or a fintech application, a Revolut, or Robinhood is another good example, I suppose. A UX which doesn't surprise them, doesn't shock them, makes them feel comfortable, and it's a game of clicks. The least amount of clicks, the better, and then you're winning. And I think if you just follow those simple rules, you can't go too wrong, and that's exactly what we're aiming for with the Wealth app.
Awesome. No, and I completely agree. I definitely think making the crypto either slightly hidden or as easy to use as possible is paramount for a lot of companies. And I think is something we're seeing across, and it's clearly something Wealth's doing. And it's great to see. And I think that is the future, and that is the way we kind of onboard more people into this space. So what changes when everyday investors are able to participate earlier, do you think, in the markets with like now making these pre-IPOs more accessible? Do you think it kind of like redistributes opportunity? Do you think it will have an effect on the market? The bigger these kind of pre-IPOs get, the opportunities get for everyday people.
Yeah, I don't think anything like changes radically because this isn't the only initiative that of its kind. There's a huge sort of tokenize everything movement that's happening right now, and essentially what's happening is there's just a much more efficient exchange in the markets. Is the best way and simplest way I can describe it. Of course, an upside would be the average person, the 99%, are able to, if they want to, and this is important, like not everything is for everybody, right? But I do know for sure that my son or my daughter, whenever they're of the right age, my daughter's 16, she'll be 18 pretty soon. She's going to want to do something smart with her money, right? That she gets from her grandma and she gets from whatever, from us on Christmas. And she's already started asking me questions like, Dad, can you invest this for me? Can you do something with this for me? And if I told her that she was able to invest in TikTok, for example, or if she was able to invest in Discord, and these are things that she uses herself, she would, that's the key here. It's like a socialization of investing, which I think is incredibly powerful longer term if you think about the companies and the underlying assets as well. The fact that not just a bunch of suits over in Silicon Valley are able to benefit from the trajectory of their company, but the actual people around the world who maybe use their software, use their app, I think that's just a better system all around, because I think it's only fair that if you are a user of something and you are the one that's actually the main driver of value behind why this thing is valuable, that you should be able to participate in the sort of the value distribution of that company doing well because of you, the underlying user. So for me, it's like closing the loop, right? And I think the technology that we are using and the systems we're using that allows us to do that is a game changer that we needed in order for just like a fairer system all around. Yeah, and I hope she sort of does do that type of investing early enough, because I can tell you through my 20s I wasted a lot of money doing other things that if I had to put it in Facebook, if I had to put it in Google, all the stuff I was using on my phone or on the internet or Skype or whatever, I would I'd be calling you from my jet right now probably.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm trying to get my son. My son's just turned 16 now, and he's already asking me, similar questions like how can I start investing? What can I? Because he's just got a job, his first job, and he wants to tuck away a percentage per month and start investing. He doesn't want to put in banks. Like my idea of saving as a kid was to put money away or, just splash the money. I was 18, but he's much more. I don't know if it's whether because I work in like the sector, so he's like overheard me and grown an interest, or if it is simply because they have far more opportunities than we ever did to learn about this stuff. I remember growing up thinking investing wasn't for me to some extent. Like at 18, like that wasn't within my realm of where I was growing up or like my worldview. It was much more to do with, as you said, like suits in central London or Wall Street or wherever the case may be. So yeah, going off the back of that, like if you were 18 again today, starting from scratch, like how would you approach investing?
I mean, I think the big thing here is social media, like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, like YouTube. These are like the all-encompassing and all-powerful influences in our lives, but also more importantly in our children's lives. And when people are on there constantly talking about how much money they're making from owning their own content, whether it's, I don't want to say OnlyFans or other endeavors, right? Like monetizing their social media. My son's even started to like make some cash from his TikTok, that type of thing. And this is real. This is actually happening. So whether or not we want to like be part of it or engage with it, our children are being exposed to a whole new ecosystem and a whole new reality, which is that individuals are empowered now to sort of take charge of their own financial destinies, right? And the whole idea of getting a job at the age of 18 and then having that same job until you retire at the age of 60, and taking a loan from the bank and buying a house, like that is not what people talk about. Like that's alien to the younger generation. The younger generation want to do smart things and kind of maybe work a little bit less, I guess. I don't know if that's part of it or not, but I'm open to that. Listen, if you can figure out a way to monetize your world and then invest that and allow it to compound, then Elon Musk talks about a future where nobody's going to be working. I don't know if that's very extreme, but I do understand what he means, which is that there's enough resources out there for everybody, and if we're using the system smartly, then there's enough opportunity for people to do really, really well. And this is just a part of it, right? So if I'm 18 again, I am definitely going to try to do something with content, try to monetize that content. But then when I get that funds, whatever it is, a couple of $100 or even a couple of $1,000, depending how successful I am, I want to compound that, because there's something called time in market, TIM. It happens to be my name as well. But time in market is the thing, right? That's the secret sauce that nobody really understands until you go through this exercise. It's the value of compounding. And if you take, X amount of money on day one, and then you allow that to compound over a series, period of time, whether it's months, years, or even decades, and if you're also then actively investing and doing a lot of research at the time, finding the next big company, and then investing in that company, you know, that's how Warren Buffett made money. That's how all these people have grown absolute fortunes. I'm not saying everyone has to be a Warren Buffett, but if the strategy is there and the logic is valid, then let's just create systems that allow people to do it. Let's allow people to be investing well and in a way that they want to, in things that they want to invest in, and yeah, allow people to succeed.
Yeah, I went on a whole Warren Buffett deep dive during during COVID. Yeah, no, definitely, I completely agree with time in market is something again that I didn't learn until later in life. And when I first started investing into, I tried penny stocks. I was having a lot of fun with, which was kind of like the shit coins for me, I guess. They were complete gambles, but also starting like much longer term investments and starting like dividend buys and things like that. So making sure that I was getting paid dividends each month. I mean, it's not a lot. We're talking dividends like 20, 30p a month, but it will just compound, go back, reinvest, as well as me topping up a certain percentage. Again, this was information that I kind of had to find out later in life, because I think this younger generation has the ability now with the world at their fingertips, thanks to the internet especially. It's like all the information is out
And
there.
AI, the new
And
internet.
yes, of course. Well, now you don't even need to research it yourself, like Google searches and go through page. You can just ask AI, like, how do I do this? Give me a strategy. Might not be perfect, but it'll give you at least a starting point and give you a detailed rundown. And I think it's an amazing place. And I don't know if I agree with none of us will work because that
No.
involves a lot of redistribution of wealth, which I don't know will ever come. But I do understand that like the thought process behind it. And YouTube started monetizing, I think, around 10, 12 years ago, something like that. So even that is still a very new revenue stream. Like, and I don't think we've seen that used to its full extent just yet. We've got outliers like Mr. Beast and people like that who have earned fortunes through monetizing their own content. But it's no longer, because I think people also got into their head that you need like 1 million followers and this amount of money.
Mhm.
But if you go out and look, there's like whole niche markets where these kids can earn, a decent wage as long as you've got a very solid 10,000 followers,
Mhm.
but that are completely engaged. None of it bought, none of these bots. They're all real people engaged in your content. So they can earn a decent amount, and then obviously, as you said, go reinvest, be smart with your money. The information's out there for them now. And so, where do you see kind of like wealth fitting into this landscape as for both us and but also the younger generation? Like, how do you see that being utilized?
Yeah, I mean, you just said it, right? The secret's out, like the cat's out of the bag. And if it's not out of the bag, you just need to go to AI and ask it, like, how do I do this? How do I invest like Warren Buffett? How do I do this? How do I do X, Y, Z? So it's no longer like a taboo. It's no longer like mysterious about how people, make fortunes. And even, like if you want to become an expert like trader, you can literally like teach yourself very, very quickly. Then it's about, okay, what tools do I use? And what is available for me out there in order to be able to exercise these strategies that are now like common knowledge, let's just say, even if it's not common knowledge, because you still have to have a bit of initiative to go and like do the right prompts and ask the right questions and be critical of the information you're getting. But that's those are softer skills that I think most people will get pretty soon. But then it's like, okay, well, what apps are good, or like what platforms are good, or how can I get access to, let's just say Discord? Like tomorrow, we're about to put Discord on the Wealth app. Like this is a great example. Like the whole gaming industry is supported by that infrastructure company. It's used. It's behemoth in terms of the numbers and the traction it's got. My son uses it every single day. Like he's a massive gamer. So if if that's going to do an IPO, like right now it's private company and only certain groups and certain people will have been able to invest in the growth of that company, obviously employees, but if you're not an employee, then you're an angel investor or you're a VC or you're some kind of high net worth individual who has the networks and the platforms to invest in that. Most people haven't. Like, let's be honest, like 99.999% of the world haven't, which obviously includes most gamers, most scholars, most people who use the bloody platform. So, right, yeah, okay. So it's going to do an IPO in March. We're launching it on Wealth tomorrow. So, like, someone who's 18-year-old gamer, 22-year-old gamer, 24-year-old gamer, who's like, yeah, I want to get in on the action before the IPO. Even, by the way, when it does IPO, it's still not super easy to access, but that's another discussion. We're talking about before the IPO, the sort of the private investing. You'll be able to do it through Wealth, and so let's just assume there's somebody out there who has done their research. Discord's in the top 10 private companies they want to invest in because they use it, because they're bullish on the long-term horizon for that company. They can do that on Wealth, like for very little friction. $20 is the minimum to invest, so that's within reach of a lot of people. I'm not going to say everybody because I know there's parts of the world where $20 is still a very significant amount of money, but $20 is the minimum on the app, which is a lot lower than most financial apps or any kind of investment platforms. And the gating is almost totally removed in terms of friction. You need to have a Google account, an email, and if you don't even need to know anything about crypto or Web3, you just log on and Google authentication will actually set you up an account. And then it's about, okay, can I load my account with that $20 or $100 or whatever it is? And yes, you can. Debit card, credit card, the normal, like I said, the normal way you would interact with online retail. And then finalize your investment, and then it's in your portfolio, it's in your app, so you'll see it there. We talked earlier about NFTs, and that's a kind of a taboo now, also because of what happened with Bored Apes and that whole pump and dump era of NFTs. But our technology that allows you to hold this tokenized private equity asset is a non-fungible token standard, which basically just means that nobody else has this exact investment that you have. It's very unique, and it's encoded like on the blockchain in a way that nobody else can ever say, no, I own that, or no, here's a copy. This is the original. It's like, no, the original is 100% guaranteed to be shown by the blockchain, right? Like, there's nobody can mess with that truth. That sits in your wallet, and then you can do a lot of stuff with that, and that's the key as well. Most of these types of investments is long term by nature, and also like completely illiquid, right? You don't get to cash that investment in until much later down the line when there's an IPO and the shares are on the stock market, on the stock exchange, and you're able to then exchange your investment for shares and then sell those shares on the market. With wealth technology, we've actually solved quite a lot of the kind of the hard illiquidity, where you can actually take that, what we call it a slice, the NFT, this digital representation of your asset, of your ownership, of your investment. You can put it on the marketplace, and somebody else might buy it off you for the price that you want, and then they own it, and then you're no longer the owner of it, right? And that's all managed by the blockchain, so you don't have to like fill out paperwork and like do loads of administration. No, it's what they call permissionless. It means that you don't have to have this set of like agreements and permissions to allow it to happen. It happens because you say you allow it to happen, and the other user accepts that they want to buy it, and then it just happens automatically because that's how smart contracts work on the blockchain. So it's a little bit technical, but essentially you have what they call sovereignty. You're empowered then with these assets to do with them whatever you want to do, which is really important. You can gift them as well. Like if you're the the type that's, very generous, let's say. Birthdays are coming along. Christmas has just been, but it'll come around again. What a nice thing to do is gift someone $20 of something like Discord private investment, and that happens with an email address. So that's another pretty cool thing to do. But yeah, that's a long answer to your question.
And so they can be traded whilst it's still pre-IPO, just to confirm. That's
Correct. Yeah, they can be traded from the second you've bought it. You can go and list it on the marketplace, and you can try to like sell it for more than you bought it for. And often these companies do go through additional fundraising rounds. So let's just say the valuation, I don't know, let's say it's 10 billion or something like that, or even 5 billion, and then they do another fundraising round, and the valuation of the company jumps because they've been able to raise money at, say, 10 billion or 15 billion or 20 billion. Somebody might say, oh, hey, I want to buy your investment for I don't know, 15 billion or 10 billion, and you've only paid 5 billion valuation for it. It means that there's a 2x multiple there, and if you're happy and they're happy, you can execute the sale on the app. It's peer-to-peer marketplace, what we call it.
awesome. Oh, amazing. That's like a whole new layer that I think people would definitely be interested in taking advantage of and like experimenting with. So is there any other like updates or features that you're kind of close to releasing with Wealth that you could tell us about? Obviously, obviously it's a secret that don't. And ideally, where do you see Wealth in like 5 years?
Yeah, great questions. We're really transparent at Wealth, probably to a fault, because what normally happens is, there's a lot of copycats out there. I was just at a conference in Abu Dhabi, and I saw at least 3 people who were copying exactly what we're doing, and not even like with a little bit of like nuance or trying to be discreet about it. They actually copy the text that we use on our website and like all that sort of stuff. But I don't care. I think it's a form of flattery, and it just gives us validation. I think that we're doing the right things. We're super confident in who we are as founders and technologists, and our roadmap as well. So that we don't believe that competition is going to be competition for much longer. We are about to release the native mobile apps, which I think is a game changer, especially if you're going to get a lot of new users on board. That is where new users, like to, what's the word, engage and participate. It's through their mobile native apps, right, from App Store, iOS, Android. And it's also a way for them to do due diligence, right? Because if it's in there, then it's probably, or at least in theory, it's past certain levels of, scrutiny. And yeah, app stores have said, yes, this is fine, this is good, go ahead. So that's important for us to get that kind of like validation and verification from a native mobile app. But also the user experience will be really, really good, really, really slick. Like the web app right now, there's maybe quite a lot of options that you can explore. On the mobile app, it's going to be crystal clear. It's going to have a list of companies. If you want to be involved in that company, you push on it. You can read a little bit more, or you can invest directly, like a couple of clicks from download to investment. And I think that's the gold standard, like we talked about before. It's a game of clicks. So that's the big milestone that we're looking towards. We just yesterday announced that we are part of the Base app. And for those outside of crypto, that might not mean a lot. But for those inside crypto, the Base app is the super app that the Base Coinbase team have released. And essentially, Wealth is a mini app inside their app. So if a user is on the Base app and they've got 500 USDC in there, they can click on our app and go and buy pre-IPO through our app just using the Base app. So that's really, really cool. And Base is, of course, huge ecosystem. And Coinbase is their grandfather organization, and they have they're a publicly listed company, and they have huge amounts of reach and distribution potential. So there's a lot of cool stuff happening with our sort of Base ecosystem. But if you're outside of Web3, then maybe it doesn't mean too much to the general person. And in terms of our roadmap, I don't want to give exactly, our target destination because I think that would be probably a little bit risky at this stage. But what I can say is AI is a huge part of that. We've got a firm thesis on where financial technology is headed, and it doesn't stop at pre-IPO access for sure. That's just one type of asset which is fitting under our thesis of one of the best ways and tried and tested ways, as we discussed, to build wealth is compounding value over time and investing in the right companies at the right time. And that is what we're trying to do with the pre-IPO access. But there's also other things, right? A lot of people make money in DeFi strategies, compounding strategies, yield strategies. There's a lot of really interesting ways to take money and to make it compound over time. We're leaning into those. We're exploring those. We've got quite a few under development. And then, as a user, I think it's going to be incredibly important that you're not exposed to all this without having someone hold your hand. And in the future, that person holding your hand is going to be a digital person. But the value of that is huge, right? Because if you're able to program that guidance to be set to your tastes and your preferences, your risk, everyone talks about it. What is your risk appetite? And if your agent is already pre-programmed with all of those kind of characteristics of you as a person, then in theory, the decisions that are going to be made after that are going to be much more tailored to who you are and your personal goals and what hopefully where you want to be in 5-10 years. So that's a big part of it, and it fits like squarely into the wealth ideology, which is basically using technology to allow people to access wealth creation in the best possible way.
Oh, I love the idea of having my own onboard AI assistant to kind of help me plan what I'm doing. I think that's brilliant, and I think obviously that will help a lot of people, especially those maybe newer to the space. And I don't mean crypto; I mean investing in general. Right, that was excellent, Tim. Thank you so much for coming on today. Where would everybody else be able to find you on social media?
Yeah, actually, good question. I got rid of my Facebook many years ago, but crypto has brought me back into social media realm. I'm not a social media degenerate by any means, but I do run a Twitter account, X account. So you can find me. I think the link is below. And also, I do enjoy LinkedIn a bit more, if I'm honest, and you can find me on there too with the link below.
Awesome. And the links will be there along with the wealth links. Fantastic to see you all, and hopefully see you again soon. Take
Thanks,
care.
man.
Thanks, Tim.
Cheers.
Yeah, I hate outros.